Hi everyone. This time we're going to do a video on EMIC, Cambridge Analytica, and its association to the Canadian government and the individuals involved in that, and an overview of the events that occurred from 2020. Well, it's kind of starting in 2019, about July of 2019, moving through to 2020, and then ultimately after HRT falsely arrested me in August 2022. And what we're going to do is just talk about a series of very concerning events and timings that occurred. And I'm going to talk very loosely about it now, like some topics that really do need a deep dive and need to be discussed. So I'll talk about them lightly, but I really want to get into the EMIC contracts because I think that this is the most important part, that people understand how serious this was. And it'll be pretty undeniable for the police. Everybody will generally say, no, these are good questions. Somebody should sit down and talk with this guy. And, so let's get started on this. So I had worked at J.D. Irving from February 4th, 2019 to July 26th, 2019. And during that period, I was severely harassed. And basically, it looks like the police stole my wallet so they could deny me security clearance. There was a lot of stuff going on. I was targeted. And it started off with that kind of harassment, then it went to the police kind of harassment after they figured how smart I was. And actually, when you look at it and all the timings, it seems to go right back to November 7th, November 8th when my job was posted. And it seems like there is a lot of compelling evidence that my position may have been created to specifically be framed. But, that's going to be covered in a different set of videos, and I do have some very serious evidence regarding that. So when I was there, I had some problems, and, I tried to deal with them, and the employees were like, they started to come to me, they started bypassing my manager and stuff because they knew I was really smart, and that created problems, and they had to do something. So they did, and they tried to frame me with the police, and nobody would have really questioned it, right? And, but I knew something was wrong. I knew they did something wrong. I knew their employees knew, I knew their security did, because some people acted differently, others didn't, and, that was telling me that, they did something really bad. And you'll note that employees did say that, they had a feeling that they were framing people, like bringing them in specifically to frame them or setting them up to fail so that they didn't have to face certain issues themselves, which again is consistent with what I was experiencing. And the only thing that I can do is present evidence. And, if somebody says, hey, that isn't what it is, then fine, right? All I can do is present evidence and not lie about it. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about EMIC. Now, me and J.D. Irving and a guy named Jim Perrin and a lady named Jody Postavad did an investigation in January 2020 at J.D. Irving. And let's just put it short. I went and did a recorded meeting by myself, and probably really stupid idea, but I was only aiming for a 70, and I definitely hit a 70. I do think that overall the meeting was respectful, and I think that for all sides, and I maintain that throughout. If you would like to see a breakdown of that meeting, I have requested the recording through BIPADUP, but they will not release it in any way, shape, or form. I do think I meet the criteria to have it released and put proper, but it is what it is. I can see why they'd be embarrassed of it, not because of me, but shocking. Yeah, so, it was about what happened. I knew something had happened, and then they lied and said nothing happened. And that's something we're going to come back to before, right? Because this isn't one lie. This is like a series of lies to build into a really big lie, because, and you'll see that. So, back in 2019, especially in my last month, I was staying with a friend, and I noticed that I was getting a lot of Dutch subreddits. It was like very strange, like very specific, and I mentioned it to the people I was staying with, and they said the same thing. Like, they're like, this is weird. I was just like, I didn't really think much of it, right? Like, just like maybe Reddit changed their algorithm, this or that, maybe somebody watched some weird porn from somewhere. Who knows? Who knows what's going on, right? But the fact that it seems to be affecting the entire home network seems like really interesting, right? So we'll jump forward to November about 17th, 18th. I almost had my complaint ready to go, and I get contacted by the government about a job. And if you check the Wolf and the Neural Network, you'll see all the events that then happened on November 19th. And then I eventually go through and do my complaint, and, we end up doing this investigation. Whatever they say that I lied about it, which I obviously did, and the evidence is, like, very overwhelming. And the technical reviews and security reviews that I submitted on Jim Perrin and Jody Postavad were absolutely solid. any even partially reasonable person would have seen what I was saying, and that just goes to show you exactly what they were doing. This had nothing to do with partially reasonable people or rationality. This had to do with them specifically trying to cover this all up. They knew what they were doing, which isn't really surprising, right? What did I expect? They were actually just going to come out and face themselves? I mean, literally, some of these people are like 60 years old. Like, if they had the capability to really be able to face themselves, we wouldn't be sitting there having that kind of a meeting. So did I really think that these people were going to actually? No, but, you know, in the end, it does directly speak to their integrity, doesn't it? And then when they get beat, they still can't face it. That really says something about them, like something very, very fundamental about what kind of a failure they are. Because, you know, people who you get beat, as long as you learn and you admit, like, no, I got beat, you can learn from that. But people who can't, so really, they're not winners, they're just losers who buy their way out. And like, for me, like, them looking at themselves, how can they? It's disturbing. It is. And it's an embarrassment. The whole investigation was an embarrassment. The VPs and the directors and stuff, it's really embarrassing. But what we'll do is we're going to get to the EMIC part of this, okay? So, near the end of this investigation at J.D. Irving, I was on a hookup app on my phone. I'll be very, you know, forward with this because it's going to be required. I was on Grindr, which is a hookup app for dudes. I mostly use it for attention. Or just at least trying to meet somebody, you know, maybe like a dude that's into the outdoors and he likes, you know, fishing and hunting and these kinds of things. Like, there's an off chance there might be a dude on there. Might be. And, you know, I was looking for that. And there was a fella, attractive fella. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to send him my location, see what he says. And when I went in to do that, I noticed that my location was set to an address in Stillwater, Nova Scotia. And I was like, and it wasn't set arbitrary, it was like I was sitting right in their living room. I've never been there. I live 40 kilometers away. I'm like, this is weird. Why is it showing this, right? And I said, well, I wonder if it's like a weird thing. Maybe this is a gay dude, you know, and I'm seeing his location for some reason and something's broken in the grinder, right? The grinder's broken. Too many dicks. And, so I closed out a Grindr on my phone, right? Closed out the app and I went and checked Google Maps to see where it thinks I was. And it still showed me at Stillwater, Nova Scotia. Right, so it wasn't an artifact from an application or anything like that. It was an underlying thing that my phone, that's where it thought I was. And to change your GPS, you actually need to use specific software. Like, you actually have to go out of your way to be able to do this. And so it was set to this address. Obviously, I didn't go there. I was a little put off by it. I didn't know who to contact. I looked up the address on Viewpoint and stuff, and I couldn't find anything about it. Couldn't figure it out for the longest time. And I knew it had to do with something, right? So what we'll do is we'll jump forward to 2022, and it would have been when I completed The Wolf and the Neural Network, which was in about June, moving into July of 2022, which, you know, then eventually went into August 2nd when I was falsely arrested. And you'll see the problems here, because before that I'd been contacting the police and asking them to please, you know, please assist with this. Let's sit down and talk about this. Let's be reasonable. I've asked J.D. Irving to be reasonable. Even stated I would sign a non-disclosure agreement and just walk away, right? Because I didn't care about money. I didn't do anything like that. I needed to know this was taken care of because I knew something really bad happened. Like, I mean, not like, ooh, somebody ate my cookies or like somebody stole my car, but like a serious issue to do with national security and concerns. And I thought it was becoming very apparent to me. I mean, throughout the process, different hints there and there. So throughout that process, what I did was I was tracking a journalist by the name of David, I think his last name's Pudgeleys, and who works for the Ottawa Citizen, who then, you know, works for National Post, and then works for now Saltwater, right? I mean, he doesn't necessarily work for them, but they redistribute their articles, right? So it's a platform. And this whole issue with Cambridge Analytica was going on, right? And you can go look up Cambridge Analytica, and you know, it was this big data issue with Donald Trump, and you know, these people were influencing elections, Brexit. They were all over the world influencing elections. They were using mined data to be able to manipulate people on a animal level. Basically, like they had it down so well. Like if you, and it's only getting better. And it's the concerns here. That like they basically know what kind of colors in a video would make you mad, make you more likely to share it, and they knew enough about certain kinds of people to how to piss them off or make them happy, these types of things. But as we know, fear and anger are very easy human emotions, so those are the most lucrative ones. If they can elicit those, that's where they're going to make the most money because they're going to get the most voters, and that's what they focused on. And you'll see eventually that I refer to that as them waking up hate, right? But the number of smartphones that would have diluted the markets at those points or saturated the markets, you can see the end of that curve. And what they were able to do was they were able to hit all these small pockets around the world and wake it up all at once. And sometimes if you were to wake that up just in one area, you can try to put it back to sleep. But what they did was manipulated people like animals across the world, even the remotest of areas, and then that disease would have spread. And then how do you stop something like that? Anyways, that's my theory on it, but let's get into the actual EMIC contracts. So, on this David Pudgley's article, I noticed they pointed towards Cambridge Analytica. They were talking about it. It came out October 13th, just after I think it was a UK parliamentary hearing from the staff workers for Cambridge Analytica. And you can go to the Cambridge Analytica Wikipedia page, and I'll give a second there, and you'll go down a little ways, and you'll notice that there's a company called EMIC, and it kind of just came out in 2020 that they were working for different governments and such. And in the David Pudgley's article himself, they linked towards what seemed to be the contracts with the government website to do with EMIC. And so I was just naturally curious, said let's go look up these contracts, and when I did, I noticed something very concerning. Remember that property of Wayne McIntosh? Well, when you check the mortgage dates, it shows July 5th, 2019. And then you check the contract dates for EMIC Consulting on the EMIC contract, it's July 5th, 2019. Like dead on. And I'm like, this is weird. Something else is definitely going on here. So by this point, I'm like, obviously, I gotta purchase these land records and stuff, right? And I'd already known who owned the property, but I didn't know about this EMIC stuff. So what I did was I bought the land records, it's like $11, and I looked the person up. And immediately they have a public Facebook page, and they have pictures right at J.D. Irving, right, with the ships and stuff, but also signed certificates from the Prime Minister. So now I'm finding this EMIC contract associated with it. So what are the chances my GPS location gets set to some random person's house who just happens to have pictures at the shipyard, J.D. Irving, and signed certificates from the Prime Minister matching these dates in this EMIC contract? It's pretty slim, right? And what you'll really notice inside the EMIC contract, and this is going to set the tone for the rest of this, is that, the organization just says national defense, of course, right? But additional comments say target audience analysis. And this is what's really important because it's basically, the foundation for what they're allowed to engage in as per the mandate that they've basically been given. And what you can do is, to understand what target audience analysis is you can go to the NATO website. There's actually a couple resources on this, and I will, put it up there. Or you can go to the referral from the UK Parliament. And, these things are considered weapons. And, the target audience analysis methodology was considered a weapon. Weapons-grade communication tactics. And the UK government had to be told if it was going to be deployed in another country. Right? And there's a whole section from NATO. They refer to it as PSYOPs. So this is like psychological operations with different stages of engagement, right? You could start off just looking somebody up first, right? Like that might be your first thing. Let's look them up on Facebook, get some information. That's not really that bad. You can do that. It's public. They're displaying it, right? But then it's like, maybe I could just like find out phone numbers and find out family members and all this kind of stuff. Go a little bit deeper. Maybe bump into them. Go to where they work. And then it's full-on engagement. Like you can just full-on lie to that person, manipulate them, walk up to them, have people lie to them, cheat, steal, do whatever they want. right? So it's really like this escalating thing, and I'm sure you have to get warrants to escalate, blah, 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 blah. But it is what it is, right? It's an objective thing. They state it right in the EMIC contract, target audience analysis. You can then go look up what targeted audience analysis is and make your own decisions. But the facts are that it is there. It does match this location. And we have this individual who has pictures at the shipyard, has a signed certificate from the Prime Minister, and is now associated with these different contracts. But there's another concerning fact here, is that when I was working at J.D. Irving, somebody came up to me and asked me if I knew this Lori person. And the top friend on that person's Facebook page was that person. So this is an amazing level of actual evidence that something is going on. First off, my GPS location being changed to another house, that is a federal crime. That is a federal crime. I did not put that there. That is a form of hack. That's a crime, right? But, and you'll see why that is so concerning, because, and I'm just going to mention this a little bit, we're not going to get into too many details. Somebody did approach me. It was a man. He was built like a god, like a beautiful fucking man. Beautiful. They sent him now, I would still have a go. Are you kidding me? Woo! Damn. And anyways, he seemed a little bit suspicious and stuff, and I was like, whatever, you know, I'm going to find out what's going on here. You know, engage, use my body. That's what they want from me. They want the way I look. I said, why not, right? And eventually they tried to offer me $50,000. Tried to get me to do drugs. I seen their camera set up and stuff. It seemed to be drugs. I don't know what it was, right? Like, I don't know. That's the beauty of it, isn't it? When you take like a video and stuff, you can take it out of context. Fuck, they could fake me being in there. But the fact is, you don't know. I didn't. And, you know, we still did our thing or whatever, and I never heard from him again. But it's extremely suspicious individual. But maybe just a bro. Just thought the stories were funny about my life, but he told me that he wrote a book about my life and had it published. Then offered me $50,000. So, I mean, we'll just leave that there. So, here comes the really concerning part, is that we have EMIC contract number 2. And this one here is extremely personalized, because after the investigation at J.D. Irving, and I was stalked and hunted by the police, and they laughed and mocked racism and everything, I wrote a letter on August 5th, 2020. And it was just addressed to all those same people that were involved in this. And I was like, this was so inappropriate, and you know I beat you, and I am not going to stop right now. And I was like really in context, because we were talking about the just like dominance or whatever, why they would choose to do what they would do. And you know, I was basically like, you will yield now, or I will strap a collar on your neck and parade you through the streets howling. And then I talked to the defense minister about how embarrassing this was, how I was able to provide like an adequate definition of systemic harassment, and I respectfully asked them to end it, because it was just so awful. Like, I can't believe they mocked racism in the way that they did. I can't believe they mocked me the way that they did. It was just straight up disgusting, and something had to happen. Something had to happen. So this is where it gets really interesting. So the next day after I sent my letter, Nova Scotia Premier Stephen McNeil resigns, says he is leaving politics. Now, the announcement caught many off guard, as McNeil previously said he expected to attempt a third term. McNeil only advised the caucus of his decision earlier in the day. So very quick, sudden decision. Now, what's important about that is, you know, he would have been involved with the issue on the top end. He would have known about it. But if you go back further, when my wallet was stolen, with that his brother was the chief of police at the time, right? They're brothers. And, yeah. So, what you'll notice is that this would have occurred on August 6th, and what I did was I gave them 6 months. I said, you're going to 6 months to implement privacy policy and have this all dealt with. I don't pretend that it's an easy issue. So here's where it starts to get crazy. There's a house close to mine, and some people just randomly moved in, and everybody in the community was like suspicious about it, because they didn't engage with anybody, they didn't interact with anybody. I personally don't care. I don't give who the fuck's out there. I'll go do my thing no matter what. I don't care. Right? And I didn't think about this until much, much later, like almost September of 2022. I didn't let it bother me too much. But what you'll notice is at that residence that, so what we'll do is we'll look at August 6th, and then I gave them 6 months. Let's count forward 6 months. So you're at August, you got September, October, November, December, January, February, which means you shouldn't expect an event on February 5th or 6th, and you do. What you then get is Stephen McNeil leaves office at the 6-month mark, just like clockwork. And then CEO of Shipyard, Kevin McCoy, retired on that same day. Right? But what you also get is on that exact same day, you can take a look at the land records for that property, and you can go see that the house got transferred on February 4th, the day just before that happened. But if you go back even further than that, what you'll notice is that the start date that's listed matches the date of the second EMIC contract. The start date there is the 14th, the second EMIC contract's the 15th, and the letter from Employment Services Development Canada is the 15th, and these letters went missing from my mailbox. I mean, I don't know where they went missing, but I had to contact Employment Services Development Canada. They told me they absolutely sent them. Right? But here's where this starts to get really spooky. Because it was about the 31st, between the 31st and the 18th of February, I had found the signals from 2 radio transmitters, one about 30 feet behind my house and then another one about 100 feet behind my neighbor's house, where they ultimately would have found RCMP after they falsely arrested me. RCMP would have been sneaking around with flashlights. So I think that you can see why this is now so concerning, because you've got this whole circular set of events with EMIC multiple times. I've got these EMIC contracts showing this correlation with these properties. I can show that that's correlated with other land transfer properties, showing that is the kind of behavior they engage in. And I can prove that, you know, all of this stuff happened and that even the community was worried. But it gets even worse because I caught them taking pictures of us several times, and once at night. That's right. So, I've been asking RCMP who EMIC is. I'm obviously not supposed to know this. So after HRP falsely arrested me August 2nd, whatever, when I got out, I emailed about these contracts. And within 30 days, they were deleted from the website. So they tried to hide them. And, yeah. So if you go back and you look at EMIC, and you understand who they are and where they were founded and who they were founded by, it's extremely concerning. The racist background, who owns them, the special interests that own them. You see, it was owned by some different billionaires. And, you know, it was being facilitated and run by the board of directors by different individuals who were directly related in the 2016 presidential election in the United States. And now these people are targeting me. And we've got these events with Post Media, who were partial to those same people in events in 2016. And you've got this constant theme now of serious racism, laughing about it, mocking it, these individuals who don't believe it exists, harassment, all these different things. And now you've got these 2 contracts associated. You've got these police stalking me all these different times. You go back to November 19th and wonder why everything happened on all those dates. It seems to be all related to whatever the core issue was going on. Like I said, this was not all about me. I never said that. I said I got caught up in something. But that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make right what these people did. It doesn't in any way, shape, or form. It makes it even that much more wrong. Because it shows that they will just be hateful monsters if they can just be hateful monsters. And they don't care. Right? They say, oh, that's just fine. But if anybody did that to them, what would they do? If anybody did that to JD, what would they do? That's right.